Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. We're going to begin with the approval of the agenda, but before we do the approval, I just want to make a note that I have moved up the Theatre Orangeville report 13.1.1 to follow the delegation from Theatre Orangeville at 12.1.2. So could I please get a motion to approve the agenda and the addendums with those changes, please? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Stevens, all in favor? And that is carried. Was there any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest tonight? Not seeing any. There was no closed session, so we're going to go straight into the open meeting, and we will begin with the singing of our national anthem. I'll ask that you rise if you're able, please. We would like to acknowledge the treaty lands and territory of the Williams Treaty Nations and of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also recognize that Dufferin County is the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and is home to many Indigenous people today. Tonight's meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be saved for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *9 to raise their hand to indicate their intention to speak and to dial *6 to mute and unmute when called upon during the appropriate portions of the meeting. As we had no closed session, we have no rise and report. We do have some minutes from previous council meetings. The recommendation is that the minutes of the following meetings be approved: the council meeting of June 8th and the council public meeting of June 22nd. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast, all in favor? And that is carried. We will now move into open forum. Open forum is an opportunity for Orangeville residents to have the opportunity to present their views or pose their questions to council on any subject within this council's jurisdiction for a maximum of 3 minutes, provided they have not previously addressed that same topic before council within the last 3 months. If there is anyone connecting via telephone, you're reminded to press *9 to indicate your intention to speak, and when you're called upon, it's *6 to mute and unmute. Was there anyone in the gallery who wished to make a comment during open forum, who is an Orangeville resident? Okay, was there somebody online? Nobody online? Okay, so we're good. Nobody at open forum tonight? Okay, come on up. Yes, there is. Okay, go ahead, Jordan, if we could get that one going. We'll turn it to you online. We'll just need your name and address for the record, please. And it's *6 to unmute.
Good evening, Mayor Post and members of council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Alison.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry, I guess I should start and be official. My name is Alison Shield. I'm the Executive Director of the Orangeville Business Improvement Area, located at 10 First Street in Orangeville. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening in support of Theatre Orangeville and the staff recommendation contained in report CAO 2026-008. The Orangeville BIA represents more than 300 downtown businesses, and from our perspective, Theatre Orangeville is much more than a performing arts organization. It is an important economic driver for our downtown. The Opera House is active more than 300 days each year and welcomes over 20,000 patrons annually. Those visitors don't just attend performances, they dine in our restaurants, shop in our stores, and support our local businesses, contributing nearly $470,000 in visitor spending to our local economy each year. Theatre Orangeville also enriches our community through youth programming, community partnerships, and accessible cultural experiences that make Orangeville a more vibrant and welcoming place to live and visit. As a longtime community partner, we've consistently found Theatre Orangeville's board, staff, and volunteers to be collaborative, innovative, and deeply committed to the success of our downtown. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the thoughtful work reflected in the staff report. It's clear that town staff have undertaken significant due diligence, and we appreciate the balanced approach that supports an important community institution while protecting the town's interests. On behalf of the Orangeville BIA, I respectfully encourage council to support the staff recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your time, Allison. Thanks for being here. Mr. Smith, you wanted to get up and speak? And we just need your name and address for the record as well, and then the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Post. Matthew Smith, 38 McCarthy Street. Just in regards to the agenda item about the proposed pedestrian crossing at Wellington and Sarah, I'd just like to know if any consideration was given for that intersection to have, say, like a raised pedestrian crossing or a continuous sidewalk, something like that to further enhance pedestrian safety. Thank you.
Mr. Koslak?
Through your worship, there's no plans right now to put a raised intersection in that area. Maybe when the road is reconstructed, we'll look at it. The town has a policy with no vertical deflections, and with this being a fairly minor area, we'd like to get the work done this summer before the school opens, and that's the plan with that. There's a continuous sidewalk right now on Sarah, bringing it to the intersection. We have a crossing in the area. We're looking at making it a three-way crossing, so it should be a lot safer for pedestrians walking to the school.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on up, Mr. Ugolini.
Rick Ugolini, Cedar Drive, Orangeville. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I'd just like to make a suggestion. There's a big hydro vault on the 109 right across from Bravery Park. And I just wonder if there are any thoughts given to when that vault is painted to make it military. I have several family members in the military, and it would mean a whole lot to me and probably other people in town, especially being right at Bravery Park.
Thank you, Mr. Ugolini. We will pass that on to our economic development team who takes care of doing the utility box program. That's a good suggestion for one box coming up in the future years. So we'll pass that along to the economic development team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Was there any other comments during open forum? We just need your name and address for the record, Mr. Grista.
My name is Nick Garisto. Good evening, everyone. So
We need your address as well, Mr. Grista.
Okay. My address is number 20 Paula Court, L9W5V1. Anyway, the question I have tonight is probably more directed to you, Mayor, and the Deputy Mayor. It's related to Highway 9 and County Road 3. As you turn from Highway 9 to County Road 3, because that's where I live, I gotta go up to Blind Line, it is full of ruts and holes there. Is the county gonna take care of it, or that's part of the town to take care of that?
That would be the county.
The county, okay,
Yeah.
I hope you'll pass it on.
Sure,
Because I
thank
tell
you.
you, every time I pass by there, it's like I'm swimming on the ocean with
Yeah,
the car.
no problem. We'll pass that along for you.
Okay?
Thanks, Mr. Grista.
Thank you.
Was there anybody else in the gallery who wished to ask a question or comment? Come on up, Mr. Bruce.
Peter Bruce, 157 Parkview Drive. Here also just to appreciate thanks to Mayor Post, Deputy Mayor, and Council for just the work we've been doing at 50 Broadway. Maris is here from MHBC Planning, who we're working with on that project, and we just wanted a couple of minutes. We're on the agenda later on tonight, but just wanted to say a couple of words of thank you and just some updates on the project.
Good evening, Council. I'm Marius Yastrzemski from MHBC. We're here for item 13.18. We did submit an addendum letter as well, which will be considered, with 2 minor technical requests related to the draft zoning bylaw amendment. If those 2 asks are complicated or complicate our application in any way, we're happy to proceed with the staff recommendations as are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bruce, anything else? No, we're good. Yep. We can talk about it then. I was just going to make a comment that when council does get to the discussion on 13.1.8 later in this evening, I just want the applicant, members of council, and the public to understand that if council approves the staff recommendation as presented, that approval will not include the 2 additional requests that were outlined in the late correspondence that we received today. After some consultation with staff earlier today, I do want to note that those requests are not required for us to be able to facilitate this development application, and it's recommended by staff that those actually be considered through a future planning process. So if you want to pursue them at that point. So as it is right now, unless something is changed in the motion, if 13.1.8 is approved as written, it will be the staff recommendation before us without those additional changes. So I just wanted to make that note. Do you have something that you want? We can talk about them at that point, or you can ask a question now if you'd like. Go ahead, Deputy
Just
Mayor.
from a procedural point, so will we not talk about it later then, or we're going to settle everything here now? I'm sorry, I'm just not following.
You can talk about it at 13.1.8 if you'd like, because if you want to make changes, that would be the appropriate time to do it.
Well, I wanted to talk about the development itself.
We'll talk about that at
We'll talk about it
13.1.8,
then.
but if you have questions on that specific letter, because we're not, unless you,
No,
somebody pulls
I'll
the
wait.
correspondence.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you
perfect.
for explaining it.
Okay, any other comments at this point? I think we're good. Thank you very much. Okay, was there anybody else who wished to make a comment during open forum? Was there anybody else online, clerk's team? No, we're good? Okay, so we'll move forward then. We will move into the public delegations and petitions. We'll start with Kim Delahunt, who is the president and CEO of Headwaters Health Center. She is joining us virtually. There she is. Hello, Kim. Thank you for being here. And today is just about sharing some annual updates. So whenever you're ready, Kim, the floor is yours, and we can see your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mayor Post, and good evening, council members, staff, and everyone in the audience. Thank you very much for having me, and I wish I could be there in person. If you could just go to the next slide, please. And as Mayor Post said, I'm happy to provide an update on some big accomplishments at the hospital over the past year, and then also speak to our focus for this fiscal year. So the slide in front of you is our strategic plan, and the next slide, please, is just a summary that's contained in our annual report for our fiscal year, which ended on March 31st, 2026. But just really quickly, you can see some of the large numbers, some of the stats for what was completed inside the hospital over the past fiscal year. So just want to highlight our emergency department continues to see in excess of 34,000 visits a year. You can see all the numbers of surgeries, dialysis visits, outpatients visits. Just want to highlight our lab tests. So there's a lot of lab tests on the hospital, over 424,000, and lots of diagnostic imaging tests. And you'll hear me talk about our MRI in the next upcoming slides, but over 74,000 diagnostic imaging tests were completed at the hospital. And on the next slide, please, you'll see that Headwaters, we ended the year in a very strong financial position. I'm really pleased to share that we actually ended with a $1.6 million surplus. And mostly due to some very late funding letters that we received from the ministry, which we are always thankful for, but also due to some very prudent financial management in the hospital. We completed our second year of benchmarking, which was looking at efficiencies, comparing ourselves against peer hospitals of a similar size. So some really excellent work going on at the hospital to end in a strong position financially. If you just jump over to the next slide, please, and then the one after. So I think, you know, as you're all aware, our MRI became operational in September 2025. We're working our way up to the 8,000 scans a year. To date, we've completed over 5,100 scans. And so we're on target to get up to the 8,000 a year. So really, you know, what that means is 5,100 local residents did not have to travel outside of Dufferin Caledon to receive their MRI since September 2025. So really, really pleased with that. That's a major milestone of the hospital that we're extremely proud of. On the next slide, I wanted to share that over the past year, the hospital also focused a lot of time and effort on updating our business automation systems, our boilers, Really happy to say that we received actually the biggest kind of incentive and rebate check that Enbridge Gas issued last year. So we did receive a check for $278,000 in total, which was the highest. And so we also reduced the natural gas that's used at the hospital, our operating costs, and we've also lowered our greenhouse gas emissions. And next slide, please. Actually, you can go over two. And then just some other proud accomplishments. There are many, but just to highlight a few. So our ED, emergency department wait time performance, we improved across all the metrics that are monitored provincially. So a lot of effort with the team. We continue to focus on decreasing the wait times. If you've driven by the hospital, you've seen the new staff parking lot that's complete now. Lots of training, lots of initiatives completed inside the hospital. But I did want to highlight our community paramedicine program, which is relocated to the community health hub at Ettelbrock. And as well, our paramedics implemented a brand new medical dispatch priority system that was implemented across the province. But our local team here implemented it successfully. And I talked about the benchmarking. So next slide, please. And you can actually skip over the next two. There's just our annual awards that happened in June. I do just want to highlight that, I want to highlight one in particular, the esteemed Dr. David Scott Award. Really pleased that this year it was awarded to one of our Ontario Health Team partnerships that includes a number of our community partners and the hospital. So there's a centralized intake now for anyone who needs palliative care services across Dufferin-Caledon. So we are really pleased to acknowledge that team, which is a number of organizations working together now, making it easier for anyone needing any kind of palliative care supports to access. And then next slide, please. I would be remiss if I didn't always acknowledge our amazing hospital foundation, who did just complete their largest campaign ever in successfully raising $18 million for the hospital, which of course helped us bring the MRI to the hospital. So just want to acknowledge them as I always do. And then next slide, please, which is my second last slide, just looking forward to this current fiscal year. So of course, we're continuing to work with the ministry and the capital branch and our emergency department expansion, which has been improved. We're going to continue to always work on reducing our wait times in our emergency department and across all clinical programs. We're always looking at what programs and services can we expand to ensure that we are offering more services close to home for all of the residents across Dufferin-Caledon and of course in Orangeville. We're looking at AI and how we can engage more software programs to improve clinical decision making. We're using data more and more across the hospital. And then I just want to pause on, we completed our engagement survey across the hospital. We had the highest participation rate ever at Headwaters, with over 70% of our staff and physicians completing our engagement survey. So we're going to be acting upon some of the great feedback that we received and always looking at partnerships. So my last slide are just, kind of three big takeaways that I leave you with. So, I wanted to share with folks at the town that, our hospital continues to be fiscally responsible. We are not allowed to have deficits, so we're always working on being efficient, ensuring we invest wisely with all the funding that we do receive, and of course, without ever compromising quality of care. We're always looking at what improvements can we make to our infrastructure and to increase access to care locally. And then you've heard me talk about, we're always focused on how we can support our staff, physicians, volunteers, and our increase in learners and students that we have coming through the hospital with our partnership with TMU School of Medicine. The last few slides were just photos of all of the heroes at Headwaters. And then I'm just going to do one other shout out before I open up to questions, just that if you don't have your calendars marked, we do have our annual Teddy Bear Clinic, which is coming up on Saturday, September 19th. So I encourage everyone to bring your kids, your grandkids, anyone, because it is a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll pause there. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for your annual update, Kim. Really appreciate seeing all the great stuff that's happening at our hospital. We will start with Councillor Andrews with a question.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Ms. Delahunt. Always a pleasure to see you, and always a pleasure to get an update on what's happening with the hospital. And not to say I'm a frequent flyer, but this spring was actually in your emergency department twice. Not myself, but a couple of family members. Having said that, you did focus in on some activities that are happening with the emergency department. And I did notice that, of course, there is still some construction underway with the emergency department. So having said that, what is the timeline for completion?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Andrews, for the question. So the timeline is we're planning by next week, Monday, to have our main emergency department entrance open. So the paving of the parking lot was occurring today, which is separate from the construction that needed to happen, but concurrently, the tiles have been laid and the final finishes are being done to be able to open the entrance and the newly paved parking lot for patients and families to access next Monday.
Great, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Game changer, of course, with the expansion of your parking. We've spoken about that even here in the council chambers. One thing that I'm certainly connected to is the post-secondary side, and of course, glad to see that you do have that relationship with TMU. How many medical, either students or those that are aspirationally looking at other forms of medical education and career paths are you involved in? Is it not just TMU, you're also involved with some of the other institutions as well?
We are. So in regards to medical students, physicians, students, residents, we are also affiliated with McMaster University and the University of Toronto. And along with, there's the ROMP program, the Rural Ontario Medical Physician Program. So we have medical residents coming to us from all over Ontario, but our primary partners are with now the TMU School of Medicine, University of Toronto, and McMaster, in addition to ROMP. On the non-physician resident side, we have, I think the last count I heard was over 20 different affiliations with different institutions, such as George and Brown, many different colleges and universities for all the other allied health and nursing, RPN, PSW programs.
Excellent.
So we're increasing that year over year as well.
Okay. If I may, Your Worship, I have one quick question, again, back to the emergency numbers. I saw 34,722. Is that a huge increase from 2025? Where do you see it from a comparative point of view?
It's not. It's actually about the same.
Okay.
So it's been hovering around the 35,000 visits for the last few years, to be honest. So we're pretty stable right now.
Okay. That's all I have for Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any more questions from council, so I just want to thank you for your presentation, Kim, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Post and Council. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Up next, I'd like to invite Jennifer Stewart, the Artistic Director, and Laura Austin, the Board Chair of Theatre Orangeville, to talk about the financial support request. The mic's on for you, so
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor Todd Taylor, and council members. We are sincerely grateful for you allowing us to present this evening. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Laura Austin. I'm the Theatre Orangeville Board Chair, representing our small but mighty Board of Directors, whom most of them are in this room. There's some retired board members also. I'd like to introduce Jennifer Stewart. She is our new artistic director, and many of our staff are also here this evening, our volunteers and stakeholders. Could we go to the next slide, please? So you can see what our ask is this evening. You might wonder why the town of Orangeville would risk taxpayers' money on a bankrupt organization like Theatre Orangeville. And this might be a good question if you don't know David Smith or Cheryl Braun. Jen and I are here this evening to be fully transparent and to share why council accepted our delegation. On November 13th, 2025, TOV's auditor stated TOV was heading towards insolvency. RLB had little confidence in management's assessment and remediation plans. But as the board, we had a fiduciary duty to safeguard TOV, and because of the symbiotic relationship we are blessed to have with the town, we scheduled a confidential meeting to discuss our current situation. The town's professional resources were made available to us, which we are forever grateful. I won't get emotional. After reviewing our financials, Cheryl was very clear. TOV needed to reduce expenses or generate revenue by $200,000 annually for 5 years. It was a big ask. And she wanted to see a cash flow. So since March, Kim Denick, Theatre Orangeville's finance manager, Kathy Campbell, our board treasurer, Jen and I have dug our heels in, and we focused on cost containment. We had some tough decisions to make: layoffs, employees cross-training. All of these things needed to be addressed. We have now lowered our wages by $160,000 moving into our next fiscal. We consulted marketing, productions, youth academy departments to restructure the operating budget. Marketing agreed to immediately eliminate $50,000 from their budget. Jennifer has gone above and beyond, which I will highlight in slide 8. She has personally eliminated $50,000 or more probably from the main stage budget. She has role modeled for TOV's dedicated and committed staff. She's shown what self-sacrifice looks like during an existential crisis. With production concessions, a third fundraiser in September, 3 Canada Summer Job Grants for this summer, we will realize $290,000 in savings over the next year. In the past 6 months, under the watchful eye of Kim Denick, we have successfully paid $150,000 off our accounts payable, which demonstrates our ability to repay this loan that we're asking for. The $300,000 from the town will give us a step up to pay our debts with community partners and see us through the sustainability plan. Next slide, please.
Before you keep going, Laura, I'm
Yes.
conscious that we're going to run out of time, so I am
Okay.
just going to ask for a motion to extend. Councillor Prendergast and Councillor Andrews, all in favor? Thank you. Now you don't have to worry about a time limit. We're good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have a few more slides. So this is our story. Our mission is to enrich the diversified Canadian content of our programs and future opportunities, to generate revenue to enable artistic excellence in existing programs and future opportunities, to sustain, enrich, grow, and further develop our audience, our patrons, and stakeholders, to retain and attract staff, directors, and volunteers. Our next slide, please.
Why Theatre Orangeville matters in this community. The mandate for Theatre Orangeville has and always will be Canadian content. We develop new Canadian plays right here in Orangeville by partnering with Booklore and authors on stage to raise money to develop these plays that we can then produce on our stage. These plays then go on to have performances and productions in Canada as well as the world. I will use Norm Foster as an example. Next season, we're producing 4 world premiere plays right here in Orangeville, one of them being the new musical play Ballycroy, which is a local story. And this is something to be proud of and something to fight for. This is a unique model. There are probably a handful of other theaters in the country that produce Canadian work. We are fortunate to have the opportunity to work with these Canadian playwrights who want to come to Orangeville. For example, Merrick Norman, who's a prolific Canadian composer, wrote Ballycroy, and he wants to have his world premiere here in Orangeville. We hire Canadian artists, actors, designers, directors, and we foster Canadian content. This is something that is unique and is important as a legacy for Canadian culture in this country. If we cease to exist, it will be American plays that will be on our stage. And I really think that it's important right now, especially with what's happening in the world, that we foster Canadian content.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Our economic impact. Katrina from the town provided these statistics. You can see that Theatre Orangeville is a cornerstone of downtown Theatre Orangeville. We are the economic driver, a catalyst for $5.5 million. Orangeville's destination, people want to live, work, and play here. We enrich the social fabric of the town, and we are grateful to be here. Next slide, please.
Our community impact. We have permanent staff who work for the theater in our offices, in our rehearsal halls, and right here in the town hall. We support local businesses, as was mentioned earlier by Allison. We create a social experience, a place where people can come and forget their problems for 2 hours and gather together for a shared experience, which is something that is very rare in our isolated age. We encourage people to get off their cell phones, their computers, their iPads, and come and have a joyful time with us to celebrate together what's important, stories that matter to us, and a place where we can foster relationships with people who also have similar interests and maybe meet some new people too. I think too, the theater creates an opportunity for people to step into someone else's shoes and see life from a different perspective, which in turn creates empathy, which we need more than ever before.
Next slide, please. To quote Sophie, our Youth Advisory Council member who sat on the board, this is what she said. You may have seen her blog. Thank you for the immense opportunity to join the board 3 years ago to express my ideas and hope for what theater can look like for the youth of Orangeville. Sophie began on the stage at the Opera House at the age of 6 with toys, which gave her confidence, poise, purpose, and now she's heading into a career in the arts at university this fall.
Yes, Sophie right now is playing Cinderella in Into the Woods. She started at 6 years of age in our Toys choir. She took classes, workshops. She became a member of our young company in the drama and the musicals. Last year she played Hermes in Hadestown. And because of all of the impact that Theatre Orangeville had on her life and her career, she's going off to study music at Wilfrid Laurier University. These academy programs that we offer are vital to this community. With the arts disappearing in the public school system, we provide an opportunity for students to see a production. We have an education on stage program that is vital to this community, where it gives children who won't necessarily have the opportunity to see a live performance, they can come and see professional theater right here in Orangeville for $9.50. We have grants that help us with these programs, and they are very important to foster audiences of tomorrow. And they don't have to drive downtown Toronto. They can come right here to Orangeville.
Next slide, please. Our love for Orangeville. Theatre Orangeville plans to reestablish a financial relationship with local businesses as we strive to rebuild long-term community partnerships by rebranding fundraisers to attract new demographics. We are sourcing new grant applications. We have an organizational restructuring. We are creating new revenue streams with service clubs that make TOV programs sustainable long-term. Next slide, please. Oh, this is me. Okay. Me again. This is our shining star, Jen. She is TOV's greatest asset. And the board is very happy to announce that she has just signed a 2-year contract because, you know, finding out about the financials, we were worried. She's staying. She's keen. So Jen is directing more main stage productions to save us money. She has given up the entire month of July to direct Young Company. She is offered to be the swing, so that's the understudy for the Christmas Panto. It's 5 actors this year, right, Jen? Which I can't even imagine how you could do that, but because it's December, there's a lot of sickness, and that will save us a huge amount of money.
You won't have to cancel performances.
Correct, yeah. And She's scheduled four less actors on our main stage, which is also a huge savings. And she also comes with industry connections from Stratford, Shaw, and we're very lucky to have fresh professionals on our stage. Next slide, please.
This request is important to us, not only for the theater, but this community. The impact that we can have as an organization on Canadian culture is unprecedented. If we look at Stratford this year, they're doing one new work. Shaw's doing one new work. Drayton isn't doing any new work. We are developing 4 new Canadian premieres right here in Orangeville that will have lives outside of this organization. They will go on to have future productions, and that's something to be proud of. We have I Am Enough, a play that premiered here in May, which was in collaboration with Headwaters Health Centre. It was to raise awareness and money and funds for mental health. And on May 24th, when we did the production, May 12th, there was a donation of $10,000 to the mental health unit at the hospital because of this performance. Sherry Garner, the performer and playwright, who is also Canadian, she's working with Headwaters now on a 5-year collaboration where she will take her show to other communities in the country, but she's coming back here next year to help raise money for Headwaters Health Centre. And it's these collaborations that we're excited to foster moving forward, not only with our 5 main stage Canadian plays every season, but special presentations that will connect us to the community and to help other not-for-profit organizations succeed. And we're very proud of this unique opportunity that we are able to provide for this community through Theatre Orangeville.
Next slide, thank you. Young people need safe, creative spaces to build confidence and discover their voice. Neurodiverse performers deserve meaningful opportunities to learn, create, and take the stage. Canadian artists and playwrights need platforms to share their stories that reflect their shared experiences. Our community needs accessible, cultural experiences that bring people together in shared connection. In closing, we would just like to say thank you. A sincere thank you for considering this request.
Yes, thank you so much. We are fighting for the future of Canadian theatre right here in Orangeville. We have important cultural work that we can foster and develop and share with the entire country, and we thank you for your consideration of this ask.
Thank you very much, Laura and Jen. I really appreciate your time today. I'm going to ask you to stay there. We are going to consider staff report 13.1.1 at this time as well. So any questions that council may have, whether it's to the delegates or to 13.1.1, you can feel free to ask them now. Deputy Mayor Taylor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Ms. Austin, thank you so much for your presentation. Jen, thank you so much for being here as well. It's great to see the board members here. Much respect to all of you for what you've done to get us to this point. So thank you for that. Kind of have a few thoughts, and then I wanted to just be honest with everybody. To me, to not have Theatre Orangeville, it would be like hollowing out Orangeville. It's just super important to our town. And if you're truly involved in our town, you'd understand exactly what I'm talking about. So we get that. I think everybody up here gets that. The whole piece about downtown and the businesses, the economic development, the tourism strategy, it sort of goes up in the air without Theatre Orangeville being here. So there's key things that we're trying to do for the betterment of the town that we can't do unless you're part of what we're trying to do here. So to me, like, I was thinking about what you were talking, like, what's important in Orangeville? And I think, in no order, like lacrosse, hockey, I'd throw Theatre Orangeville as one of the centerpieces of what people love to do in our community. But then, like, I think about what my obligation is. And, you know, I was elected to sit here and try and make good decisions on behalf of the town, and it comes down to people are already so angry. I don't know about with us, but they're angry about what they have to pay and the economic conditions that generally our country is in, and Orangeville has been in for a long period of time for a long list of reasons. it's expensive to live here, right? And so what you're asking is that we would take our finances and help an organization, which is sort of unprecedented. That's not really, in my mind, what we're supposed to be doing. So in lots of ways, the pessimistic answer for me today would be this is a lose-lose for me. So on one end, I lose something that's near and dear, where we go to the theater. My children have benefited from it. I've already talked to you about what the community is. But in lots of other ways, my judgment on whether I'm a good financial steward of what we're doing is going to be judged. And I would think in lots of ways, people would think it's a bad idea, right? Like, why would you lean out and do that? I've read through the financial report, the 5% interest, it's great. It's not really what the big thing is. It's the ability of the theater to pay it back. We can't have you not pay it back. That's the whole piece. If it goes that way, all of us lose credibility, and quite candidly, the town loses money, which isn't a good thing. So I guess kind of as I wrap up my thoughts, first of all, I guess I'd say I want you to know I fully support the theater. I will be voting yes today, but I have trepidation about it, right? This isn't really what I want to do, but I want the theater. I want the theater to be here. So I guess as I close this, my questions would be we didn't really talk about how we got here. You know, you talked about what we're going to do, but we've led to an inflection point here, and it wasn't really explained how we got to the inflection point. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Whatever you can share would be interesting. And then the last thing is, like, we're out of runway. Like, if this doesn't work, I can't imagine a scenario where we'd be able to support you again, right? Like, we're going to be out. So we're sort of at it here today. I don't know what the rest of my teammates here are going to do, but full cards on the table, I'll support. But I'm wondering if you could share some of that. You know?
Laura, do you maybe want to start? Mike's already on.
Oh, well, yeah,
you're
I
good.
see it's now. Where to start, Todd? So I don't think we can really discuss how we got here. It was just bad management. And moving forward with a restructuring, if we do hire a new GM, it will be someone who has financial background and a knowledge of the industry. So having said that, I think that's it as far as the history goes. Moving forward, I think we have demonstrated we can pay a $300,000 loan back. I don't think there is a risk. It is a loan. It's not a gift. We haven't even discussed sponsors, donors, granting ticket sales. In the budget, we based it on actuals. And we had a $4 ticket increase for this next fiscal, and we were very conservative with our numbers. There is no dreaming involved there. There's no angel donors that we're fabricating just because it looks good. These are real numbers, and I think we feel confident with the staff and the dedication and the commitment. Jen and I just did year-end reviews with our staff, and they all talked about commitment and why they're here.
CAO?
Yeah, Mayor Post, I'm sorry, I had planned to make a little bit of an opening statement. You jumped to the deputy mayor. If it's appropriate, I'd like to do that now.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. And some of it may speak to the deputy mayor's comments. And first of all, I wanted to thank the Theatre Orangeville board for the really remarkable efforts over the past 7 months to develop what we believe is a reasonable and responsible, well thought out for planning and ensuring the continuation of Theatre Orangeville with the support of council. The town treasurer and I have worked with this volunteer board, and they are volunteers, who've taken this task on with great dedication and ingenuity. Recognizing the seriousness of the issue and the critical importance of Theatre Orangeville, both as the cultural performing arts hub of our community and the huge economic driver for our community. The board did not dip their toe into this, but they jumped in. Some days it probably felt over their head. They rose to the task. I live I don't want to say how far, but very, 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 very close to the theater. I work underneath the theater. I see the impact. I look out my office window. I see the impact. On Saturdays when I'm in town, I see the impact. At the beginning of this, we cautioned the theater, and we said to council not to make an ask until they were ready with a plan. You know, the initial reaction was, we've got to ask for something. We said, hey, make a plan, think it through. We can use our expertise to help them do that and make it informed ask. And I to my recollection and to my knowledge, not once did they ask for or think about asking for a grant. You know, they weren't looking for a gift, but they focused responsibly on asking for a short-term loan. $100,000 is just for a few months, and $200,000 for a longer period of time. But the premise is they want to pay their way. And they've demonstrated, our team has looked at their cash flow. They've demonstrated the ability to pay that. Of course, if something catastrophic happens, you know, that might be at risk. But they've demonstrated over the last 7 months the seriousness and their approach and the ability to pay. The Treasurer and I have worked with them to validate and understand their path forward, and want to stress it is a path forward. So to your point, Deputy Mayor, it's a path forward. It's not about how we got here, although that is an important factor. I think that the board, the staff, the volunteers have developed a path forward. Finally, and I always say that, and then I have 2 points. Our early discussion with council and the board was that staff would not be making a recommendation if we didn't believe in it. The board can always ask for something, but if they wanted staff to say, hey, this makes sense, they'd have to do their diligence. And as I mentioned, we worked closely with the board over that time. So we think that the recommendation, that's why you've got the report. And to be clear, it's been said a couple of times, but just to be clear, it's a short-term loan for $100,000. I think it's for about 9 months with interest. And then it's a $200,000 loan for a 5-year period. The Treasurer and I have the same interest as council on protection and risk avoidance and use of good municipal money. I would just emphasize that this is a cultural performing arts center in our community. When I think about our investments in sports and lots of other areas, the investments we make are appropriate and huge, and this one as a loan feels appropriate. So I know it's a really tough discussion and a tough decision, but I want council to understand that the staff are making the recommendation because we believe in the work the theater's done. And we'll support, of course, as we always do, the decision of council.
Thank you, CAO Smith. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to just make a comment, and again, Mr. Smith, CEO Smith, thank you for your overview on this particular matter. Ms. Austin and Ms. Stewart, I want to thank you for being here and the rest of the board that's here. Full transparency as you opened up your comments. I'm a numbers guy. I look at the profit losses. In fact, full transparency, Deputy Mayor Taylor and I had the opportunity back in July of last year to review some of the possible complexities that Theatre Orangeville was facing. I was also, and I will be candid, I was critical of the board at the time. My fellow member of council, Debbie Sherwood, who sits on your board, heard me loud and clear. But I also want to commend you for the work that you and the rest of the board have done, because you have done a lot of work to change my mind. And I do want to commend you because there is so much that I could say regarding the impact of this particular organization to our community. I think you're being somewhat generous when it comes to the figures of economic development. That's one of my files. I think the numbers are actually higher than what you've calculated. The impact in our community is significant. And for us to lose this particular anchor in our community, I just don't even have words to describe it. I want to commend Ms. Stewart for not only committing to this community, committing to the theater, but also being creative and committing to our country. The importance of Canadian content is absolutely paramount in these times. I've changed my mind. And it's not to say that my mind was not heading in one direction, but as I opened up my statement, I am a numbers guy, and I think it's important that the members of this community understand that many of us look at the black and white numbers here. We know where you were, but I also see a crystal ball that seems to have, some concrete actions and a commitment. I do have some questions that either will be posed to you or staff, and I can do that at this time, Your Worship. I noticed in the wording of the loan, be that the 9-month 100,000 and or the 200,000 that would be over a 5-year period, there was a term that was in the wording of this particular staff report, and I just maybe like to have our treasurer respond to it. And again, you were very kind to respond, but for the sake of public disclosure, this was the word periodic payment. When I see something like that, is it designed to be when we have enough money we will hope to pay, or is it a part of the process of paying back in a timely fashion? So through you, Your Worship.
Ms. Braun?
Just to clarify, the report did use language periodic monthly payments, so the expectation is that a payment will be made each and every month.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. There was another one regarding, and this would be directed to you, Ms. Stewart, and or maybe to Board Chair Austin. A lot can happen in our world. Economically, we know that we are in trying times. We see other things that are happening from a social economic perspective around the world that may or may not have any impact. But zeroing in on advanced ticket sales, and again, I'm kind of getting into the minutiae here, but I'd like to hear your take on this, because calculating advanced ticket sales is either looking at a crystal ball or you actually have methodology behind it. What is your methodology for advanced ticket sales?
We have an excellent office manager, Aisling Smith, who keeps track of every ticket, every sale, and we get daily updates every morning. And so these statistics are based on post-pandemic numbers. So we have something called a fill rate, where every show, every production has a fill rate. So in the past, the operating budget was calculated based on a 70% fill rate, which is unsustainable. So we have looked at the past 3 years where on average productions are at a 50% fill rate. So we budgeted at a 40% fill rate, so that we've brought our revenue down, which means we bring our expenditures down as well, so that we're not spending more than we could possibly ever take in. And because we've increased our ticket sales by $4, which tickets haven't been increased in a number of years, so we are still below where we probably should be on par with other theaters across the country. We've still made it affordable for our patrons, but we have increased the ticket sales, and we've based our projections on the last 3 years. Because as everyone knows, things are not what they used to be pre-pandemic, and so we've had to make adjustments so that we can calculate and budget for these different times that we are in right now. But we have been very conservative in our budgeting.
And through you, Your Worship, again, I think that this is going to be one of these agenda items that may end up taking a bit of time, but I do want to pass on some other comments or questions to my fellow members of council. One thing I did notice, of course, you've retracted or reduced substantially your marketing. And again, one of the things that's very important when it comes to attracting new patrons, visitors, those that in fact are really interested in what shows you have performing, is in fact making sure that they know about them. And I guess word of mouth certainly goes about in our community in these times of social media, but it only goes so far. You have those that are still, creatures of habit for traditional media, those that may be connected to social media. As part of the changes, do you think that there may be some challenges ahead, or are you confident despite the fact that you've reduced your marketing budget, are you confident enough that you will be able to attract those because of the menu that you're offering, the shows that you're offering?
Jennifer?
Yes, our programming is very important. And also we keep track of how people buy tickets and where they hear about it. And it is definitely word of mouth. So we have our 2 previews for every performance, and then people go and talk about them. We also have noticed that most people find out about our productions through social media and online content. We don't get as much traction from newspaper or print anymore that we used to because times have changed and most people are getting their information online. So we are confident that with our new marketing strategies, we will still be able to attract patrons to our performances as we have in the past, just by word of mouth and online advertising. The hope is, of course, as we become more financially solvent and we have a trajectory right now of more ticket sales, that we can go back to some print as well. But right now, we're just being very conservative in our spending.
I appreciate that comment, Ms. Stewart. And again, cost containment that was identified by Chair Austin was also a very important phrase for me to hear from my seat. Through you, Your Worship, I'll pass it on to other members of council, and maybe I'll ask some other questions a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you, Your Worship. My comments are very similar to Councillor Andrews, except for all the technical stuff. When we first heard about these problems, I be honest, I was dead against putting any more money into a losing battle, basically. But having seen the plan that you've put down, staff support that you've got, I will support it. I truly feel that we're investing in our town by doing this. It's not just the theatre, it's the whole town that we're investing in. And I wish you all the luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McIntosh. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's going to go right into my questions. So could you outline the other financial options that were explored before coming to the town?
Laura, do you want to take that one?
So we have stakeholders, people, philanthropists who have been very, very generous over the years. They have supported all kinds of projects. We had one donor donate $100,000 to pay for busing for students to come to our education on stage, which was huge. So after a while, you can't always keep going back to the same people. I think we have to, even though we are a not-for-profit, we have to be able to pay our bills. We can't keep going to other people with our hands out. We have to cut our costs. It's like your household budget. You have to be able to buy your groceries. So we have a great product, we're selling it, and I think we just have to get to a stage. We're always very grateful for donations, but we did have a list of 15 people who are stakeholders, and we had conversations with them that we obviously were in a situation, but we were going to find a way out of it ourselves. And I think we're very proud of that.
Okay, thank you. If I may. If council were to approve this loan, what reporting or accountability measures would Theatre Orangeville be prepared to provide throughout the repayment period so that council and the public,
So we've already prepared an operating budget. We had an approved operating budget and we opened it to demonstrate that the loan payment was inside that operating budget, and it is sustainable. It's we can definitely do it, and I think that it's our integrity. We plan to pay that loan, so I guess it's our word. And I'm sure Cheryl and David will be checking up on us.
That's what I was just going to say, is I'm assuming as I see Cheryl and David that there will likely be updates coming to council in the form of reporting throughout the process as well. Cheryl's nodding. David, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, that would be correct. Council also has a board member on council, so that's a really good conduit for us. Councillor Sherwood is very open and transparent with us throughout this process, and we appreciate that. And that's always a good conduit for council to receive information, or if you've got questions, so you can refer them to staff or Councillor Sherwood, and we can coordinate a response.
Councillor Stevens?
One more. And this, you guys are off the hook. It's for staff. One of the things I'm considering tonight is not just the application, but it's the decision, what it means moving forward. If council approves this loan, I think we need to consider directing staff to consider bringing a policy or bylaw that establishes clear criteria for municipal loans to community organizations. That way, if another nonprofit comes before us in the future, we have a consistent and transparent framework.
CAO Smith?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. We'll take that for sure.
I appreciate that. And if I can just finish with my...
Yep, go ahead.
I'm in full support of this, and I'm happy that you explained more when you got here tonight, because on social media, people seeing the, nuts and bolts of the situation, and they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. And I know that everybody's put a lot of work into this. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, through your worship, I'm going to try and be like Laura and not get too emotional here. First of all, I want to thank Theatre Orangeville Board of Directors, the Theatre Orangeville staff, and the supporters of the theatre for coming tonight and showing the support of Theatre Orangeville's financial requests. This hasn't been the easiest to do, having to request a repayable loan from the town in the public eye. I want to share my personal thoughts on why I will be supporting this request. The last 7 months, the board and staff have made significant efforts of reducing expenses, increasing revenues, cost containment, organizational restructuring, applying for grants, reaching out to committed donors and sponsors, and we're definitely on the right path. The stats in the presentation clearly shows the benefits of Theatre Orangeville to Orangeville and Dufferin County. Their existence benefits our tourism and local businesses and provides great entertainment and serves our youth. This is not just giving free taxpayers money. The loan is repayable with interest, and the interest rate is higher than that what the town would earn in a GIC. So we're going to actually receive more money than we would have earned if we had invested that money. Theatre Orangeville can recover slowly out of this financial situation with this loan, and based on the financials provided and meticulously reviewed by our staff, confirms that there is little risk to this ask for repayment. I support the recommendation from our CFO and CAO for the $1,000K repayable loan to be due by April, plus interest due April 2027, and $200,000 plus interest payable over 5 years. And I hope that my colleagues will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Andrews, do you have more? Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a question that is posed through you, Your Worship, to Ms. Stewart. Menu. Menu is one of those areas when it comes to theater attendees that they either like a certain type of menu item and or they do not. Through this exercise that you've gone through, especially the last number of months, have you looked at other alternative ways of expanding your menu? And really what I'm talking about is, the array of performances and types of performances.
Definitely.
This sounds like an artistic director question, so Jennifer, I'll turn it to you.
When I'm planning the season, I'm looking at programming something for everyone, all ages, demographics, likes. Also, we're trying to entice a diverse audience into our theater because our demographic is changing in this town and in this country. It has been for many years. And so I go to shows all the time. I'm looking at plays, I'm looking at musicals, special presentations. What are people doing in other theaters of our size or in other theaters that are bigger than us as well? And what can we provide that entices new audience members to our stages? For example, our special presentations include, there's a Michael Bublé show that we want to bring, thinking about country music, thinking about I Am Enough, mental health, just spanning as many topics to get the conversation started. That's what the theater is all about. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it can spark a conversation. And I think also I have to add that theater changes people's lives. We come and we have an experience and we're different for it when we leave. And the impact that theater has on our youth, where students come to us, they don't know who they are or what they like, and they find a place where they belong. And I think that's very important. So programming things for everyone is my goal, especially the Panto is one thing that we've started to do, that David Nairn started, and it brings young people into the theater. And I think that's very important moving forward. So yes, a little bit of something for everyone is my goal.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart, for framing it the way you have. I would have expected nothing less from you. And again, to summarize my comments, I genuinely am thrilled to hear of the work that has been done by the board and the team and even staff involved. This is really a commendable effort to save the theater in our community, one that we will look back 30 years from now saying this was just a juncture point that we had to go through. But again, thank you very much for being here. And through your worship, I would certainly support Councillor Sherwood's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Mayor Post. Not to repeat what all of my colleagues have said, but along the same lines, I am very supportive of the theater and its role within this town. Just like the library or the environment, sometimes it's hard to quantify the return on investment, okay? And I know I advocate for those things all the time, but I'm also a teacher and I see the impact it has on youth in our town. Not everybody plays lacrosse or hockey. A lot of kids are comfortable on stage or behind the scenes. A while ago, there was a feature done on a former student of mine, just talking about her success in the theater and how that became her career choice. Had that have not existed in this community, her life wouldn't have been impacted that same way. And I know that's just one very small example of that impact, but it has ripples. You know, municipally, we're responsible for parks and recreation. Let's face it, Theatre Orangeville picks up a lot of that slack. They have amazing theater programming for kids at an affordable price. And that's something that they organize. We also have the Orangeville Music Theater that uses the theater space. Had we have a third-party private American firm come in, they wouldn't be able to afford rent in the theater anymore. We would have no control over our own theater. We are losing local control over so many things right now that this is something we need to fight for $300,000, which is not a gift, it's a loan at a reasonable interest rate. To save our community culture, I see this as an easy decision to make from where I'm sitting, and I stand by that. So thank you for making this great presentation, and I see that everything is in place and everyone is working together to right this ship, so I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Was there any additional questions or comments from members of council? I don't see anybody in the queue. If not, I will give my kind of piece, which is I think we all know Theatre Orangeville is one of our community's most important institutions. And like Councillor McIntosh 7 months ago when we were sitting here, I wasn't sure we'd ever get to the point where I would be comfortable in supporting that recommendation based on where we were and how we've gotten there. So, but here we are with a recommendation from staff, and I've spoken to David and Cheryl many times and said, don't make a recommendation unless unless you're really sure about it. I never wanted them to feel pressure to make that recommendation, even knowing what an important institution it was. And at that point 7 months ago, I was very concerned. I was very concerned about the financial state of Theatre Orangeville, and I was very concerned for what the loss of Theatre Orangeville would mean for our community. And I wasn't sure how we were going to recover from that. And today, though, I've seen the tremendous amount of work that has gone into it. And at this point, I believe that the recommendation that's before us reflects both responsible financial stewardship and an investment in an organization that has shown and proven who they are and who they want to be going forward. I do want to give some huge kudos as well, because there has been a tremendous amount of work that has gone into this. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget anybody. The Theatre Orangeville Board of Directors, led by Laura Austin. I don't think you knew, Laura, what you were signing up to when you were going to be the board chair, but the amount of work and time that you have put into this entire endeavor is commendable. I'm not sure that anybody is ever going to put their hand up to be a board chair again, though. Councillor Sherwood as well. Again, the role of a council member is a part-time one, and I will say that Councillor Sherwood has put in a full-time amount of work over the last 7 months outside of her regular council role, just in the investment of time in the theatre, and it's because she believes so passionately behind that. Theatre Orangeville staff, the rest of the board of directors, the entire leadership of Theatre Orangeville have shown their true commitment to the organization and how they can still make it such a successful entity for our community, but to be more financially responsible going forward. And lastly, our town staff, particularly our CAO and Cheryl and the rest of the finance team, again, the amount of leadership that you've shown by supporting the theater at a time where they needed it the most, I can't say enough thank you for the work that you've done. So with that, I will say that I'm very comfortable supporting the recommendation that staff have made because the theater has shown and the board have shown their commitment to that responsibility. So if there's no further comments from council, I will move to the recommendation. The recommendation reads that report CAO 2026-008, the Theatre Orangeville request be received, and that the CAO and treasurer be authorized to sign a loan agreement as per the direction contained in the corporate implication section of the report, and that the funds be sourced from the tax stabilization reserve. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Sherwood and seconded by Councillor Andrews. Any last kick at the can? We're all good? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for the thoughtful. I know that everybody who's here is here for the theater, so I'm going to call for a 10-minute recess so we can let everybody leave, and then we'll move on to the next piece. So take 10 minutes. We'll be back at 8:20, please. All right, let's get back at it, everybody. So next we will invite up the Orangeville OPP Detachment Board. The Vice Chair, Ian McSweeney, is here to do a presentation with the 2025 annual report. Mr. McSweeney, we'll get you up here and get you sorted out, and then the floor is yours. Oh, Mary Lou Archer is here as well.
Yes. Members of council, your worship, thanks for inviting us here to make this presentation. I'm Ian McSweeney, Vice Chair of the OPP Detachment Board for Orangeville, and my sidekick here, you all know her, Mary Lou Archer, she's our executive assistant. Okay, so you'll be happy to hear that I'm not going to be very long. And I knew there'd be muted applause there. So under the Community Safety and Policing Act and our board policy, we are required once a year to report to council. And with respect to how policing is going in the community, according to the OPP, it's policed by the OPP Dufferin Detachment. So the 2026 report, which is the one in your materials, is what I'll be speaking to today. And it's the third such report since the new legislation came in April 1st of 2024. We reported 2024 last year, and so this is the third. So as with the previous reports, you'll see, and it's in your materials, you'll see that it's divided into two parts. So part one, which is in Appendix A, contains a description of local initiatives, including background and recent events that the board has prioritized in consultation with our detachment commander. Contains description of board budgeting and community engagement activities, the local action plan under Section 70 of the CSPA, and any additional information the town has let us know that it's interested in from time to time, primarily crime information. And I know that every time we have a meeting where crime information is reported by the detachment commander, those reports are also communicated at the council's request to you. Part one includes updates in our board governance framework. And by the way, we continue to be contacted by other boards in the province for requests to provide them with copies of our governance documents, which are also located on our website. It also talks a little bit about the latest Detachment Commander Performance Review report, and that was prepared by Chair Taylor and was recently adopted by the board, and it's to be discussed. I think Todd and I are going to be meeting with the detachment commander in the next little while to discuss it with him, and then it will be forwarded along to the OPP regional commander. So the board views the eradication of intimate partner violence and gender-based violence as one of our ongoing community priorities. And we've made revisions to our board policy on IPV GBV recently to reflect the 2026 landmark decision by the Supreme Court of Canada in Aluwali, in which the court decided to, really unprecedented, decided to recognize intimate partner violence as a separate tort under civil law. So it's not criminal law, but it's recognized as a tort under civil law, and that doesn't happen very often. I mean, tort law has got a long history extending back to, the 17th and 18th century in England, and it's not often that a new tort is created. Appendix A, tabs 2 and 3, it's the latest board action plan registers, open and closed, that show various board projects and status, and I'll come back to a couple of these in a minute or two. And also those tabs include the latest board general service standards work plan. And really our work plan is really a to-do list that takes our board governance requirements and makes sure that we are throughout the year on track to achieve compliance with the legislation by the end of the year. Part 2 of the report, which is in Appendix B, is information which really includes provincial and local information on policing that's provided by the ministry and the OPP and the detachment commander. Tab 1 contains the most recent strategic plan. It's interesting, these plans sort of roll out at different times, and it's sometimes very difficult to predict when a plan is going to be issued, notwithstanding what the legislation says. But the most recent strategic plan issued was 2023-2025. We understand that the new legislation calls for a 4-year strategic plan, 2026-2029, and that plan is still in the process of being finalized, and it will be provided. It would normally be attached as tab 1 to the report, but as soon as it's issued, we will provide it, we'll put it in the report, and we'll provide it to council. The strategic plan really forms the basis of preparing all the local action plans throughout the province. Tab 2 will contain the 4-year 2026-2029 local action plan prepared by the detachment commander once it's available. This plan is currently in draft, going through the consultation process that's required under the legislation. I believe that the town has been consulted on that draft. If you haven't, you will be. The board has been consulted on it. The Section 70 of the legislation requires local businesses to also be consulted. So that process is winding its way through and will be completed shortly. And when the final plan is released, once again, we will include it in Appendix A as a linked item, and we'll provide a copy to council. Tab 3 is the OPP produces these progress reports based on the local action plan. So the new plan will be 4 years, so every year there will be a progress plan provided by the detachment commander that will inform us on what the progress is in executing the various tasks that are within those action plans. Tab 4, 5, and 6, I won't go into them, but they refer to additional reports that are issued by the OPP and the Inspector General under the CSPA. And I'm almost done, but I just wanted to give a bit of a look forward. So I wanted to point out to council the importance of Mary Lou Archer's work on securing available grant money, like the Mobile Crisis Response Team Grant 2025-27, and the Community Safety and Policing Grant. These grants really provide funding that's essential for policing in our community. And they're out there for the asking, but you have to know how to ask. And Mary Lou does just a fantastic job doing that. Also, Mayor Post and Member Weatherby's work, I wanted to acknowledge it in the board's community engagement initiatives. This has been fundamental to the board's ongoing focus on increasing public awareness and transparency on board activities. Finally, there are several significant projects that we have ongoing, which you'll see itemized in our action plan register, our action register. There is an election year board transition and continuity guide, which will be developed for consideration by the board at its September meeting. And we'll be preparing a draft policy on that. And it's really based on the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards is now called Police Governance Ontario. And they have put out a number of very helpful guides, one of which is this transition guide. We're going to adopt that into a policy, which is basically what that is. Bill 119, which is a bit of an omnibus bill, contains a number of schedules and that are quite eclectic in terms of the legislation that they deal with. Schedule 3 of Bill 119 deals with significant changes to the CSPA. It's received first reading in May, so it's kind of early days, but I've been assigned the task of monitoring the progress of Bill 119 through passage, and we'll be looking at making the appropriate changes to our governance structure in order to respond to those changes and make sure that we continue to be compliant. We will also be developing a schedule for orientation of new board members post-election and other transition matters. This will involve revisions to our current policy dealing with this topic and the board's new member orientation training deck. We did develop this orientation training deck a while ago. It needs to be updated, but we plan on rolling that out to assist the current board to train and orient new board members that are appointed post-election. So we'll undertake that responsibility. Records management project, we just had a meeting this morning about that, which is being led by Jordan and Eva from the clerk's office. It's kind of an ongoing way to assist. I mean, it will do a number of things. It will assist board members in the day-to-day management of records, but will also assist outgoing board members in dealing with how they will deal with their records that they've collected over their term of appointment to the board. So just to let you know that that's in hand. As a final point, I'd just like to emphasize to council that the board's role and the complexity of board compliance with new and developing requirements under the CSPA should not be underestimated. Participation on the board is in many ways far more demanding and complicated than it was under the old legislation. And it will be particularly important to keep that in mind when council recruits new members following the upcoming election. In that regard, we understand that the Inspector General's office is planning to begin police service and associated police board inspections, which will begin either in the latter part of 2026 or 2027. These inspections I'm not sure how they'll be scheduled or where they will start. I don't think Orangeville will be at the lead end of that, but when they look at, they'll be looking at the police service, so the detachment police service, but they'll also be looking at the boards, and they're going to focus on whether or not the board is compliant with all of the requirements under the CSPA. I'm happy to report that, in my view, we are fully compliant. We have been fully compliant since April 1, 2024, and we will endeavor to maintain that compliance with respect to Bill 119 and otherwise, to make sure that when our turn comes for that inspection, that we'll pass with flying colors. So happy, I don't know, Mary Lou, if you have anything to add. Otherwise, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Ian. We'll start with Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Thank you very much for your presentation, guys. I'll come back to you in just a second. I just wanted to share with council, I think you can see the evolution of where this has gone. And to Ian's point, it's gotten incredibly complicated. The amount of things that we have to know and understand through the legislation is key. And I hope that, and I think all of you would say, and just so the gallery understands, council actually had some criticism of the Police Services Board a couple of years ago, and there was lots of things going on as we transitioned from OPS to OPP, and really a lot of it said you need to be better communicators with us as a team. And I think this group has done that, and I think you can see the results in it. And I hope you would agree with that. Second to that, I do want everybody to know, we've got two superstars that are sitting in front of us. The amount of knowledge that Mr. McSweeney has and has been able to apply and learn and mentor others as he's gone You're an absolute gift, Ian, and I just want everybody to know that. And then Mary Lou has had a professional career in policing, and the same thing, a different set of knowledge, but we benefit from both as we go. And these are just two incredible people. So thank you both for the work that you put into this, because I know it was 100% the two of you, and it wasn't necessarily a board effort. So I wanted to call that out and really appreciate everything that you've done to be here tonight. So that's all I have.
Appreciate it.
No questions.
Appreciate that.
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. Echoing Deputy Mayor Taylor's comments about Vice Chair McSweeney and also Ms. Archer, I want to thank you for the work that you've done, certainly commendable, and I certainly take to heart the complexities and the changes that you've had to, in fact, embrace based on some of the things that are coming from a provincial perspective. I really enjoyed reading this report. There was a lot of different pieces. The appendices that were included as well really intrigued me as well. But I wanted to zero in on one area. I had a connection for a number of years with FTP and the Mentors Group. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Mentors Group, but the Mentors Group was in fact a group of individuals, men who may not have had that experience of intimate partner violence, but really were concerned about being mentors to young people, in particular young men, on how to treat their partner. And I noticed that you have highlighted this as one of your actions on community embracement and education. And I'm wondering if part of this plan, and again, I forgot to thank you too as the chair of the police board too. Yeah, I forgot. My apologies, Deputy Mayor Taylor, as I look over there. I'm wondering if the police board would be able to consider some connection with either FTP or some of the other organizations as part of this, because I see here, it's, you're talking about an awareness campaign, an educational initiative. They have some expertise, and one of the things that unfortunately has happened is that some of those individuals that were part of the Mentors Group unfortunately are no longer with us. So having said that, I think that it might be advantageous to at least maybe co-connect with that well-known organization, because they do have some best practices in place. They do have a playbook that might help out with some of the things. And again, I'm not trying to write your script here, but it's just, as I saw this, I thought maybe since you're here, it's one way of at least relaying some opportunities that might exist within our community.
Thank you. I mean, I should have said, really, the person that took the lead on developing a board policy on intimate partner violence was Mayor Post,
Yes.
right? I think a lot of the other community councils had recognized that this kind of crime is something that should be made a priority in municipal communities. So yes, we developed the policy, and we try to project it out there. I recently stepped down from the DCAF's board, but I can tell you they've heard from me often and in great detail on my views about that. I think it's a great idea with FTP. I think we can always benefit by partnering on these important initiatives. So yes, I think we should take that recommendation to heart, and we'll get back to you on it.
Great, thank you, and that's all
Thank
I have,
you.
Your Worship. Thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. McSweeney, and hello, Mary Lou. I just want to thank you as well. My question for you and Chair Taylor would be, you both were on the Police Service Board when OPS was here, Orangeville Police Service. Now that we have OPP, some of the residents still feel that we lost our hometown policing. In my opinion, I think our inspector is fantastic. I don't think we lost anything. I was a member of Orangeville Police Service for many years, and I just would like to know from Chair Taylor or you, Mr. McSweeney, do you think we lost anything along the way?
Mr. McSweeney?
I know it's a little off the topic, but I would like to know.
I don't think we've missed a step. I mean, everybody in the community will have a view, just like they did in 2020 when council had that vote. And it's healthy to have a different perspective and voice those views. But I think while we can continue to point to incidences within the community where bad things happen, and we may have suggestions on a greater police presence, on the whole, I think that Orangeville has been the beneficiary of improved policing service as a result of the switch to OPP.
Deputy Mayor Taylor, do you want to make a comment?
The comment that I would make is that, to me, those were two strong police forces, and I wouldn't run down Orangeville Police by any stretch. The OPP is just different. And if there is a major crime, and we can all think of what a major crime would be, the OPP are going to get them. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have been overwhelmed at the resources that the OPP has, and what they can do is they can funnel it on one spot, and they're going to get their person. So I think we all benefit from that. There's pain points for sure, and I don't know that it's within my benefit to even bring them up. We have a great relationship with our inspector, and I'll just tell you candidly, we argue frequently, and I think it's good. We argue out of respect. I frequently tell him I don't agree, and he lets me know that he doesn't agree with me. And I think that's healthy, and I think that's good. And as long as we can do that and still kind of have a conversation, I think that's appropriate.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I just want to also echo the words that you both are very much assets to the board, and I'm very thankful for all that you do. One of the things I wanted to ask, I kind of cued in on the MCERT and was really happy to hear about that. We know that mental health is a real strong issue here. But there's a wording there that just is kind of blowing my mind a bit. It's on page 69 of the agenda. But in there, I didn't realize that this program was so costly. And I don't know if you're able to answer me how much it does cost annually to run. But there's a comment here that says OPP in-kind donation of $175,000. We would be getting that on our cost billing, would we not? How could we receive funds in kind, or is this being covered through grants?
Mary Lou, do you want to maybe take that one?
Sure. Yes, certain things the OPP cover through their regular wages. So for example, they may do education and training with the rest of their officers in regards to the MCERT team and program, and they cover that off in their regular wages. They don't charge that back to us. And quite often, time spent by officers attending crisis situations is part of their regular program, and hourly wages are covering that. So from the standpoint of the grant applications, the OPP have approved showing those hours as in-kind donations. So we're not asking the Ministry of the Solicitor General for those specific funds. The OPP are covering that.
But through you, Your Worship, just to follow up, so just to clear my mind, they get a call for mental health crisis. That's then billed to us as a call to service. But the cost of the police is covered through the OPP's own funds. So we still get a calls to service bill.
Yes, an officer attending a call for service would be charged back to the town.
Okay, and just one more quick thing. The $230,000 funding for the crisis nurses' salaries and benefit, is that for the 2 years or for 1 year?
That was for 1 year.
Okay, yeah, it is a very expensive program, isn't it? Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Taylor has something to add too.
Oh, okay.
If I could, just only you, Councillor Sherwood, and I mean this in the nicest way, a complimentary, would pick up on the nuances of that. So kudos to you for seeing that in the report. But if you look at incidents of mental illness, the amount of time that is spent on a mental illness call is incredible, right? So you think back when it first started happening, like an OPP officer would have to go to the hospital, spend time with the individual. They couldn't leave. We can't have the doctors and nurses in situations where they might be in crisis because they're dealing with somebody who's of danger, right? So now moving forward, that MCERT program has allowed proactive policing to occur and offset the amount of time that is there. And if you looked at the mental health calls, like it's working, right? So I think, like I would answer it by saying, you're seeing what you're so appropriately calling out on the one side, but then on the other side, we're actually benefiting because of the proactive. What I think if the inspector was here, he'd be saying, I'm trying to proactively police. I don't want any crime to happen. So if I'm always working in front, then I'm going to stop these things from happening. And that's exactly what MCERT is doing, you know? And then Mayor Post has been instrumental in trying to get us funding to ensure that the Orangeville taxpayer is being offset to be in those programs. So we're getting grants and whatnot. So hopefully that answers part of your question, but kudos to you for seeing that.
Councillor Sherwood.
And thank you very much for that explanation. And I just want to make it known that I think that this is a very critical program. And thank you, Mary Lou, for, you know, going after whatever funding is available to keep this running, because mental health is not going away anytime soon. Thank you.
We have no further questions, so I just want to thank you both for being here. And I just wanted to also say, you know, I echo everything that Deputy Mayor Taylor has said through the presentation as well. But I also wanted to add that I think that most of the OPP boards will not be compliant unless they have already reached out to Ian, because he has provided them all of the policies that we have, because his compliancy work has been amazing. And I know that there have been several OPP detachment boards who have already reached out to him to utilize their materials. So any of the ones that are compliant, it's thanks to Ian as well. So thank you. Thank you both. Up next, we do have a presentation regarding the Clean Water Act. I would like to welcome Behnam Dulatiari, Senior Manager for Watershed Plans and Source Water Protection from Credit Valley Conservation, and I will turn the floor over to you. It is good to see you again.
Thank you very much, and through you, Madam Mayor.
Can you just pull the mic a little closer to you so everybody can hear you? Thank you.
Much for having me. I'm here to speak about the Orangeville Mono water budget update and the relevant technical work for well 13 to be added to Orangeville's drinking water system and the resulting amendment to the CTC source protection plan. Next slide, please. So just as a start and reference, the CTC source protection region spans the Credit Valley, TRCA, and CLOCA, Conservation Authority and Source Protection Authorities. We have a very large area with many large and fast-growing municipalities as defined under the provincial policy statement. We have numerous wells, well over 60, and a number of intakes. Many of our municipalities are seeing growth and therefore seeing changes to drinking water systems to reflect either new wells or intakes coming online or changes to the existing ones. And under the requirements of the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act, those changes have to be reflected in the approved source protection plan, in this case the CTC, before the provision of water to the residents can occur. And that's in line with the precautionary principle of the multi-barrier approach that is implemented in Ontario under the Clean Water Act after Walkerton. Next slide, please. So back in 2011, an original study in the start of the program was conducted for this area, and it was found that the local area is under significant groundwater stress. A local area in this framework is defined as a combination of zone of influence of all the wells in the system, as well as any area where reduction and recharge may have an impact on the drinking water system. It was found that the area is under significant groundwater stress under normal and drought conditions, and impacts to the cold water streams in the area in Mill and Menorah Creek were also identified. Next slide, please. So as a result of the findings of the original study and policies that were added to the CTC, South Georgian Bay Lake Simcoe, as well as Lake Erie source protection regions, a joint municipal water management agreement was put in place. This is between the 4 municipalities in Dufferin County, Orangeville, Mono, East Garifraxa, and Amaranth, with a goal of minimizing impacts from water takings and development that may reduce recharge to the local aquifer. It applies to the local area where groundwater is significant, and it provides a framework for the municipalities to address their shared resource, share information, and includes 4 more triggers for updating of the water budget that is developed for the area, and as well as peer review, dispute resolution, and cost allocation methodology. The study that we're talking about here was triggered as part of the existing policies, but also under the Joint Municipal Water Management Agreement. Next slide, please. So the new study confirmed the findings of the original study. The local area is still under significant groundwater stress. And what you're seeing here on the figure is the dashed lines are showing the former outlines of the wellhead protection areas, with the new colored areas being the new ones. Based on the latest findings and the latest data, the wellhead protection areas have shrunk for a number of wells or changed shape. But what is important is that water for the Orangeville drinking water system comes from within the municipal boundary and also outside of it. One of the things that, based on the new data that we have, is the vulnerability score, which is a measure of how easy it is for contamination to affect a municipal well, has increased upstream of well 5 and 5A, which is the largest portion of town supply. Now, I have a quote at the bottom of the slide that's in our source protection plan, and I included in all of our presentation, that the Clean Water Act established a locally driven, science-based, and multi-stakeholder process. What we're talking about here is a great example of this. This is being driven by the local Source Protection Authority and the municipality. It is incorporating the latest science and the latest information available, and we are consulting all of the stakeholders and impacted landowners and residents throughout the study, and we'll talk about the process later on. But the importance is that this is a shared resource and it's being shared collaboratively by all the partners. Next slide, please. Similar to the previous slide, one thing to note here is the area. This is showing the outline of the local area A, as well as the B and C and D were not significantly stressed. But the local area has shrunk in size, so potentially less number of parcels or landowners would be impacted by this. But the quantity stress is still there. Under the CTC Source Protection Plan, we have a number of policies and the way we deal with quality and quantity challenges. The quality side, we have policies that address chemicals, storage of handling of fuel, for example, where it would be prohibited and whatnot. And under quantities policies, we have policies that require no new takings within the area that is significantly stressed, unless it can be demonstrated that it will be, the sustainability of the municipal supply is not going to be compromised. And this is the same true with the reduction of recharge. These policies haven't changed since the start of the program. There are some technical changes that are being considered right now. However, the overall intent of these policies is the same. So the main message that I guess would be important for Council to take from this is, based on the quality and quantity constraints that have been demonstrated by this study and existing policies that we have, new development or new growth within the local area is not advisable. There is an opportunity here. We have been supporting the local municipalities with update of their official plans. We have reviewed and commented on East Carriffraxa's official plan, which is close to completion. We are in discussions with Amaranth and their OP that is going to public consultation relatively shortly. And we have started discussions with the county to ensure that the results of this study will be reflected in the county official plan and their projected growth management strategy that is anticipated in 2028. We had a meeting of the Joint Municipal Water Management Agreement representatives with staff from Orangeville, as well as all the other the other three municipalities gathered in February as part of the early engagement for this amendment. And we're anticipating to have another one in August to discuss specifically the implications for the employment lands in Amaranth and East Carriffraxa. One thing I would note that the Clean Water Act does not regulate land use, it regulates activities that occur in land use. So we look at storage and handling of fuel within a vulnerable area. We don't determine what type of growth goes in that. Next slide, please. So just very briefly talking about process. The amendment that is triggered under under Section 34 of the Clean Water Act to incorporate these new technical results in the source protection plan follows a prescribed process. Under the regulations from the Clean Water Act, it requires extensive consultation with various stakeholders. Right now, we are at what we call pre-consultation, where we go to all the affected councils and request endorsement for the changes to the Act, as well as affected agencies. Following this, there is a mandatory public consultation period. It will start on Wednesday, on July 15th, and it will go until August 31st. We have a public information center plan that will occur in Orangeville on the 13th from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. In the, I forget something, Rose Memorial Center, 20 Rose, sorry about that. And also, as part of as part of the public consultation, we do send letters to all those landowners that are impacted by the changes, and we request feedback. Public are requested to provide feedback on the changes, and they can do so in numerous ways. And we do have a comprehensive social media marketing communication plan that goes with this to ensure that there is outreach, including radio ads and newspaper, although that requirement is being removed under the changes in the Clean Water Act. Following the public consultation, the entire package will be put together. It will go to the CVC board for endorsement before submission to the ministry. And next slide, please. Once it is submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Park is ultimately the approver and technical review of these amendments. However, their timelines are out of our hands. We're doing our best to get this through before the municipal election, and then it will remain with the ministry, and hopefully we're hoping to have approval in early next year. With that, I am open to questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll start with Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I kind of pushed the button before you did. Mr. Dulatare, really a delight to see you again. Mayor Post and I had the opportunity to be a part of a presentation very similar a few months ago with, not to say some grave news, but it does talk about what I call some concerns. And, the science and data that is a part of this is critical, because as much as council, when new proposals or existing proposals have already been approved, there's been an allocation of water for those particular initiatives. What really caught my ear here is something that was not a part of your presentation that we received from council, but what you said verbally: new growth is not advisable. Can you explain a little bit more about that statement?
Sure, and through you, Madam Mayor. The study that we have here, it looks at the latest available data in terms of the conceptual model, but it also includes the projected and planned demand by all 4 municipalities, not 4 municipalities. In this case, the drinking water systems of Mono and Orangeville are within the local area, as well as the projected changes in land use and the ultimate impact that they may have on reduction of recharge. So based on those that have been incorporated in this model, very similar to the original one, while it doesn't show the town has not experienced any shortage in the supply, and it's unlikely to do so, it does show that with the increase in demand and considering the conditions present, the town's drinking water system may exceed their safe available drawdown. Therefore, anything that leads to increasing the demand or the reduction of recharge under the Clean Water Act is considered a significant drinking water threat. So when I say not advisable, I'm not saying that development stops right now. There's a certain number of projected demand and land use changes that have been incorporated in this model. It is not all universally the same, because the OPs and the projected land use for the different municipalities are at different stages, as we talked about. So what information was available has been reflected here. And I do note that the local area A is relatively small in size. So what we are saying, no further growth, new growth, so anything that hasn't been already incorporated in the study in terms of planned demand, within this limited area, then it may increase your risk of water challenges.
Great, thank you, and I truly appreciate your scientific and expertise in this area. Not to say I profess to be an expert in water, but for those of us who've been part of this council and previous council, we've had the opportunity of being connected to the water source protection and received a lot of information. Just zeroing in on one more point, and again, I have echoed this at previous council meetings. Water is one of our, if not the most precious commodity that we have, and we can't take it for granted. I appreciate that in your report you've highlighted well 13, which is also identified as the Poulin well. That is going to be coming online, we hope, soon, officially. I know that there are some processes involved, but this is, I'm hoping, will be a significant game changer for us in not only fulfilling our current needs, but also future needs, as much as you prefaced it by saying, no growth at this point is advisable. But again, I thank you for your comments and your response. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. You and I are on exactly the same page on the same point. When you came to County Council, I just was quiet because I didn't want to honestly talk about it until we got here. And we've been, Mr. Koselleck, this is unfair. We didn't talk about this before, so I just want everybody to know. This whole piece, we've got such an education from you and your team on the water, and I feel like we've got a good grasp on it. But to Councillor Andrews' point, we do have the Poulin well, we have instituted conservation, yet what we're being told here is there's a quality and quantity program, and we don't have tons of growth planned for our area. It's not massive, but I can see the headline in the whatever paper we used to have. And there's concern about this, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are as it relates to the plans that we have in place.
Mr. Koselleck.
Through your worship, I think has been mentioned, a lot of the modeling has been done knowing the existing and proposed developments.
Okay.
So we have a factor of safety, so there's no concerns in the near future we'd have any water issues. What we're trying to do is be proactive. So we're working on bringing well 13 or the Poulin well online. It's probably going to still be about 2 years to come on. But we're also doing a water master plan to look for future water sources, trying to identify 4 or 5 future sites that we can put in our capital program to include in the source water protection to protect those areas, but also look at developing those and bringing them online in the future. We're also looking at when we do repairs or improvements to our wells to see if we can do additional capacity in those locations. So some of them we're looking at doing any improvements outside the existing map area. Most of the wellhead protection's on the west side of town. We do have one well near Highway 10. It's a different area, and trying to look at some of the other spots. So that's one of the things we're doing with our master plan, just to set us up for the future so we can plan ahead and not have issues 5, 10, 20 years down the road.
Deputy Mayor?
No.
You're good?
No,
okay.
thank you.
Councillor Prendergast.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Post. I thank you for the presentation. One thing caught my ear, so to speak. I was going to ask about the significant stress in the wellhead protection area for well 5 and 5A, and just how it is vulnerable to, is the correct word, contamination? Okay. And I'm just wondering how that could impact the cold water streams, because you mentioned cold water streams, the Credit Valley, or the Credit River, rather, and if you could just explain a little bit about that and that relationship. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. There are a few different things there to touch on, and so I start with well 5 and 5A. Well 5 and 5A, the vulnerability score upstream of these wells has changed, so that maybe we can, the map, that doesn't matter. That large blob of red that you saw on top of that, it was not as vulnerable previously. The new information and new wells, partly from Ontario Geological Survey, but also from the development that has occurred in the area, has provided additional information. So in very simple terms, where we thought we had an overlying till layer that would be more protective, that reduce the amount of water that will go in, that doesn't exist. For the most part, it is higher permeability sand and gravel units all the way to the aquifer that is supplying the well, and therefore that is now deemed more vulnerable. Under the Clean Water Act, our policies apply to specific vulnerable areas under specific circumstances. So in this case, because the vulnerability has increased, it is at a point where our more restrictive policies apply. And we're talking about contamination and significant threats. These are potential activities that may potentially release a chemical or substance or pathogen that may reach the aquifer and through the municipal well. So in this case, the impact is largely outside the urban boundary of Orangeville and mostly in the employment lands of Amaranth and East Carfax. And through the Joint Municipal Water Management meeting that we have coming up, we're hoping to engage with those municipalities and with a certain number of recommendations to formalize the process of collaborative decision-making on land use to reduce the risk on the well in Orangeville. And again, I do have to emphasize that the Clean Water Act doesn't regulate land use. We regulate activities, and this is a consensus-based collaborative approach that we're hoping to bring to reduce those. In terms of impacts to the cold water streams, the Mill and Monora Creek, as a result of the taking, the amount of groundwater that is contributed to those streams is potentially reduced. It is already observed in Mill, but potentially also in Monora. And that is significant because those are cold water habitat for fish. The town does have a monitoring plan in place, and it is currently being reviewed for updates. CVC is not a stakeholder. However, we do support the town, and we are in conversations with the town and consultants to ensure their monitoring program is effective and look at the potential impact of those streams and potential mitigations. The town's permit to take water is already relatively complex. The wells have certain restrictions at certain amounts of time to be able to pump water to reduce those impacts. And one of the advantages of the new well, the Pullen well coming online, well 13, we should call it, Pullen well is abandoned, sorry, is that the town, as far as I can, and Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, the catchment area for the well is to the northwest. So it's potentially going to reduce the impacts on those streams, but that has to be verified with monitoring over time.
Councillor Prendergast?
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, I just want to thank you for that. That was very comprehensive. For residents who might live in that wellhead protection area, are there any simple things that they could do to just mitigate those impacts on the soil around them?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. For the residents, it would be very difficult. Generally, water conservation is advisable. Within the context of what we're talking about, the town's municipal wells are by far the largest takings and the largest impact to those streams, and generally the impact. So any measure that the town puts in place overall, and I think the Orangeville has been quite successful with the smart water meters, and for a number of years, actually, your total demand was decreasing. The conditions have changed. We have been in a drought situation across Ontario for months in the summer, and I don't think that the reduction is any longer in place. However, I think the town has been doing great strides in trying to reduce impact overall by reduction of demand.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further questions from council, so I appreciate your time today for the presentation. We'll move on to the associated report. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the recommendations in the agenda? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you so much for being here. We'll now move into the consent agenda, where we have compiled all of the reports for a single vote. Council may remove any of those items from the consent agenda for individual consideration. I have already been notified of the removal of 13.1.3, the Asset Management Plan, 13.1.4, the Delegation of Authority Bylaw, 13.1.6, the Video Surveillance Policy, 13.1.8, which is 48 to 52 Broadway, and 13.1.10, which is the neighborhood safety improvements at Wellington Street. Was there any other items from members of council that they wish to remove at this time? Okay, then the recommendation is that all consent agenda items for the current council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, and 13.3 committee board minutes be received or approved as presented, with the exception of the items that were removed for individual consideration. And again, for staff's benefit, I will read them out one more time. 13.1.3, 13.1.4, 13.1.6, 13.1.8, and 13.1.10. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the remaining? Councillor Stevens and Councillor McIntosh, all in favor? And that is carried. We will move first into 13.1.3, which is the Asset Management Plan. Deputy Mayor Taylor, it was you who removed that one. I will turn it to you first.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. On this, I did send my thoughts ahead of time to town staff. I see that there is some emails going back and forth, but candidly, what I wanted was to share these things in public and have just a brief discussion, because I'm not sure that everyone would understand exactly what we're doing. So the first one speaks to what is the planned progress for growth management and land needs, and specifically what we're doing is we're talking about expanding our land mass outside of the 15-kilometer square that is Orangeville. And there was a report on that a while back that talked about where we could go with that, and I think it's important that it comes out into this this report in terms of what we're doing. So my question comes to, it talks about currently that we have a $19 million deficit and what it would mean to maintain these current service levels. And I'm hoping staff could talk to that, and then there's two more after this.
Ms. Brown, I'll turn it over to you. Sure, you can, yeah. Either way is fine. Okay, perfect.
Through you, Mayor Post. Yes, the report did note that there was a $19 million funding deficit annually. That funding deficit was actually based on the asset management plan that was presented, I believe it was back in either end of 2024 in 2025, in July 2025. At the time when that asset management plan was drafted, staff were relying quite heavily on when they determined what the future requirements would be for replacement and remediation. They were relying largely on asset life cycles as opposed to what is considered a better practice being like asset condition. So the town is currently, so we did some math. We figured out if we had to replace a bus, for example, every 12 years, or we had to resurface a road every 20 years, or like based on average life cycles, this is what the funding gap would be given what the future replacement costs would be. The town is currently implementing an asset management system to help us better understand our asset conditions at an asset level, so then we can track and monitor and maybe determine which assets could be remediated later on or even beyond its estimated life cycle, or may need to be done sooner. And with those asset conditions and whatnot, we can put together a capital program and then recalculate and maybe do some better math on what that funding gap is. So I would characterize that funding gap as it's an order of magnitude estimate. It's not a measure in precision. As we get better with our tools, we'll have a better sense of what that true funding gap will be based on asset condition. Does that answer your question?
It does. It doesn't make you feel great, but it does. May I keep going with my question? The next question, it talks about redirecting budget capacity from debt retirements to other asset renewal funding. And I was sort of confused by this because to me, even though we would pay some off, we've taken some on. And we sort of went through, a Finance 101 from you about, what is the amount of money that the town owes and what is an appropriate amount of money that we would want to owe. It feels to me like we would owe more than when we talked about it before, just based on the fire station. So when I think about what the commentary is saying, it just doesn't connect for me in terms of how that would work. And I'm just curious if you could explain that.
Ms. Brown?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Post. Yes, it may not have been clear in this particular report, but in previous reports on our debt and our debt management policies, the town is trying to distinguish between that debt, which is being maybe historically used for asset renewal, just replacing what we already have, versus using debt for expansions. The latter is the more appropriate use for debt in my mind and best practice. So what we were proposing to do is any asset renewal debt that we have on the books right now, as that debt retires, instead of reducing our budget by those debt servicing costs, we repurpose debt servicing cost budget capacity as a reserve contribution. So we're putting a little bit more away into reserve so that we don't have to debt finance future replacements. We'll have more money directly from reserve.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. The last one is the grant funding piece. I think, just candidly, under the leadership of Mr. Smith and Mayor Post, we've done a great job of getting grant funding. I worry that we've had success, and you hope that we'd be able to maintain it. And it feels like if that's a strategy that we're leaning on, I think they're great. We should keep doing that, but they're so uncertain. It felt strange to me to have it in as this is one of the strategic planks of what we're going to be doing, because it's actually sort of like walking on water. It's not really there, right? So I'm just curious if you could talk to that a little bit.
Ms. Braun?
I believe those, through you, Mayor Post, I believe those comments were, we put those in most reports. We want to make sure that no stone is left unturned. We understand that, for asset renewal, that's not necessarily a focus of the provincial government at this time for a lot of their funding programs. But we will, as much as possible, continue to explore all of the grant funding programs and try to ensure that if we are eligible, we will apply for those.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions from council at this time, so can I get a motion, please, to have that received? Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Stevens, all in favor? And that is carried. 13.1.4 is the delegation of authority bylaw. Deputy Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for this one as well.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I appreciate all of the commentary that's written in the graph that was given to us. It struck me as I was reading them, I thought, I better go through these and make sure I'm really understanding in detail. And why I would think that I needed to do that is typically what happens is 18 months down the road, we say, oh, I didn't know that we agreed to do that. And I've been caught a few times. So I thought I'd just ask a few things that stuck out to me that I didn't grasp. And I imagine there's more details somewhere else. But the questions were sent to you. And so it's the major land transactions. Like, to me, if there's a major land transaction, council would be very involved in it. And I didn't see what that was. Do you want me to go through each one and then you come back to me? Or how do you want me to just stop?
Let's go one by one at each of them.
But it makes me nervous. Like, I think that council should be very involved in something like that.
And they are
Ultimately,
still.
we're accountable.
They are still. So what we've done is the land disposition and sale policy now includes minor transactions such as land leases, easements, rights of way. These were not included in the previous one. So those are the minor transactions that are delegated to staff to handle because they've always been handling them. We've spelled out the major transactions, which still states clearly it comes to council. But included in the minor transactions, just that we're 100% clear, there is also sales and acquisitions of lands at a value of less than $250,000. Those are also deemed as minor, but they also have to meet some other tests. So they can't be, they can't be strategically required. They can't have public scrutiny on them. They can't have, or public interest on them even, because then they are no longer deemed minor, no matter if they are below that 250,000 threshold. So that's the difference there, is that these minor ones that weren't included in the previous one, so we wanted to give them a different weight than the ones that council will still have to see over and over again.
Got it. The demolition permits, like, I don't understand how it's more clear, and I think it's appropriate because tonight when we get to our next topic, I want to talk about a demolition. So can you explain what happened there?
Certainly. So back in 2003, council passed a bylaw for a demolition control area. And what this did was it named every property in Orangeville as part of this demolition control. And what that would do is require that if anybody wanted to demolish a building in Orangeville, that council actually had to give permission. And the intent of this bylaw, when you read through it, is that there is additional planning oversight on this, whether that be that the new property is substantially complete before they finish the old one, or whether there was heritage implications to it. The planning division noted earlier that this causes a backlog in their process documents and requested that they be given the authority to make those determinations. And when in doubt, they bring it to council. And then if they give the approval, then the CBO can go forward with their demolition permit. And if there's question, then it would still come to council.
Fair, okay. The budget adjustments themselves, so I almost call this, I joked about the Curry plan, well, this is the Sherwood plan. So we've been educated by Councillor Sherwood numerous times about talking about adjustments in year. And then, like, I think we're quite respectful of that now. Like, we've had it sort of drilled into our heads that that's best practice. So what is this one doing that's different than what we're doing now?
This one isn't really about council. This is more of a coverage for staff or any future staff that come in that say, yes, you can do these minor ones. So you went over budget, you need some more for advertising and printing, so we're going to take it from your photocopy budget, those intra-year ones. But this clarifies more to staff that if there's any kind of tax levy increase as a result of it, or a service rate increase, or any kind of change in service level, you're not allowed to do it. Staff are not allowed to do those ones because that requires council. So this is more of a staff covering and making sure that staff understand what they're permitted to do.
Okay. The last one, I want to tell you a little story as I ask my question. So the CAO bylaw, like our CAO very much, nice guy. When I first got on here, the CAO description, it in my mind had rules or things that the CAO could do that I just fundamentally did not understand, nor did I agree with. And it was part of a contract. I just don't want to ever go back to that. Like, it's supposed to be, to me, it's supposed to be a team. It's supposed to be, we're symbiotic with each other. We're partners. I don't want to be dictated to. I don't like strong mayor powers, and I don't like strong CAO powers. You know what I mean? I want a strong team. So I'm hoping that that's not what this is doing, and it's not clear to me. And this is an example of the one that I looked at in particular, and I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to regret this 18 months from now if we sign up for this. Like, what is this? And it gives me consternation as I look at it.
So I had a question through you, Mayor House. I'd question whether or not there was any parts that stuck out to you in the new one, because the new one is actually the old one. With the pieces removed that didn't belong in this document. So there was.
It's a truncated piece on a, like, people can't see what we're talking about, but it's essentially an Excel document with minimal information, and that's why I'm asking for clarity. I didn't see what it was. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, so the bylaw is included in the bylaw portion of the agenda, the new one.
Yeah.
And if you take the new one and the current one and put them side by side, you can see this one is now the new 13.1.2. This one is now the new 12.1. The things that were removed is there was one in there that the CAO is delegated authority to issue boulevard permits. That does not belong in the CAO appointment bylaw. That
Yes.
belongs in the delegation of authority bylaw. We also have to keep current, whether we like the legislation or not, with the strong mayor power legislation and reference that in any things we do, so we've added that in there. But anything that referenced any delegations that were given to him by council, we put it in the delegation of authority bylaw, and all that talk about providing strategic guidance and working together, that's still there, just in different wording. So where one part would say something about there's a communications one, now there's a specific communications section, and the wording from that old bylaw is now in this communications section. So we didn't change anything, he has no more authority than what you provided him in the 2003 bylaw. We just pulled out those things and worded things appropriately to meet the instruments that they're included in.
That's great. I appreciate that. And just to my fellow councillors, I hope you can appreciate, if you've been on here, those of us who are on our second term, I think you understand exactly what I'm referring to, and I think it's appropriate that we ask that question. So thank you.
I will just say that the issues that you're speaking of were amended and fixed with the appointment of our new CAO. Yeah.
Yes, but it was brought
Understood.
forth
Yep.
here, and I thought, oh, I want to make sure.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder then for the recommendation in the report? Councillor Prendergast and Councillor Andrews, all in favor? And that is carried. 13.1.6 is the video surveillance policy, and Councillor Andrews, I will turn that one over to you.
There we go. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I know the Deputy Mayor has a specific question, so when it comes to his point, I'm going to avoid that specific area. But I wanted to, again, thank staff for drafting this policy. Precarious times where there's an expectation that when we state that we have video cameras that are, in fact, observing what's happening in our various assets, our various locations within our community, there's an expectation that, in fact, they are being used properly, they are, in fact, working, and they are, in fact, recording. That doesn't necessarily mean that Big Brother is watching everything, but we have come to a point in time in our society where we have to observe certain possibilities and record them, such as, for example, vandalism, destruction of facilities that in fact cost a lot, and in fact the repair of those facilities. One thing that did strike a chord to me, and again, I don't want to get into the minutia of this particular policy, and I'm not sure who I would be directing this through. I'm assuming the acting general manager of corporate services, or whom it might be someone within the organization. And I apologize, I did not forward this question ahead of time. It states here under Community, Corporate, and Infrastructure Services, camera owner departments will be responsible for the operational purpose of a camera location. The department heads will receive audit reports to verify that footage is being accessed in accordance with the policy. That last sentence I understand, but it's the first one that really somewhat concerns me, because would that not be something that is implemented and monitored from an IT perspective, or I'd like to hear a response to that.
Who would like that one?
I'll take a stab at it, and then
Okay.
Jordan can jump in.
Thank you.
If that works, through you, Mayor Post. To you, Councillor Andrews. So the camera owner departments would be the best ones to determine the location of those cameras, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
Yes.
For example, our facilities would know where the high traffic or high issue areas would be for the placement of those cameras specifically. So we also don't want to put too much more pressure on our IT division as it is for our day-to-day operational type things that we use, such as the video cameras. Was there anything you wanted to add, Jordan?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Through you, Mayor Post, to Councillor Andrews. The intent of that statement in the report is to provide onus and responsibility on the camera owner departments. It's to remove what we would call through this research and review the middle person. It's not necessary to have to go to someone in IT or myself, the way the current policy is written, to obtain this footage for an incident that is being handled by a member of our facilities team and law enforcement for something that may be urgent to be dealt with, to have to request that footage from IT and then get that footage sent. We're kind of removing that step. We have trust in our senior leadership team, in our department heads, as well as the camera owner department staff, based on the new permission settings that we would authorize through this policy, to be able to handle those requests internally and have a new audit log where each access request, whether if someone is accessing live footage, reviewing footage, checking if the camera is operable, they have to log that access. So we felt that by removing the middle step of having all of these requests go to our IT department and having the access log, we felt that it was appropriate to leave the authority with the camera owner departments.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk, as well as Madam Clerk, for your response. And again, I just want to zero in on something that you've just stated there, Madam Deputy Clerk, on the ability to archive, but also retrieve. And retrieving this type of documentation, depending on the situation, can be urgent and very important. And where this is just my observation, and again, I don't want to get into the minutia. We can certainly take this offline as one of those conversations, but I think that the importance is that when a municipality or any organization implements a video surveillance policy, you need to make sure that that equipment is working And so your comment was that, we're going to take, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way I heard it is like you're taking away the middle person that's responsible. So then who is really responsible to ensure that the camera is working?
Through you, Mayor Post, to Councillor Andrews, it would be the camera owner departments. So they have to, at minimum, 2 times per year, check the operability of the cameras. It's a minimum 2 times per year or as requested by the department head to verify that the camera is operable. And when they're checking that, they're logging it in the access log.
Okay. We'll take the rest of this offline, but thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Deputy Mayor Taylor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Andrews, for allowing me to go here with you. Just as a thought, the work that I've done with the OPP, it says to me that video cameras are absolutely necessary in our community. So not only are they necessary at the town, the recommendation is that all of us have door cams. And that we are watching our properties. There's not an issue, there's not a safety problem per se, but it's pragmatic that we would have these things. My question, and I don't know if Mr. Bramley's part of this meeting tonight, but it relates to the body cameras. I drive by law crazy, I know I do, because I over-communicate with them on a regular basis, but I see the great things that they do and the dangers of the job that they're in. It's a very stressful job that they have. I think it's imperative that we follow through with these body cameras and have them on for our bylaw staff, and we should do that ASAP and have these people protected and have backup for what they're doing. And that's my commentary, or if you wanted to comment on it.
I'll turn it to Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Body cams were not part of this review for this report. However, it's something that has kind of been floating around lately. We'll see if it shows up in the budget.
Okay. Seeing no other comments from council on this one, can I get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation in the agenda, please? Councillor Stevens and Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, 13.1.8 is 4852 Broadway. There's a recommendation report there. I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor Taylor first.
Okay. I wanted to speak directly to the developers of this, and I see that you two are here, but here's my commentary. Gentlemen, I'm so glad, and I hope, Mr. Parth's not here tonight, right? Oh, you are? Oh, good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here. My commentary to you folks is, I remember when you came the first time, and Mr. Parth, you in particular, you didn't speak, but you spoke to your people through us, and you were so accommodating as you were trying to work with our community, bringing this development here. And I just wanted to share with you again, I'm very supportive of you being here. I'm supportive of your development. I thank you for investing in our community. And just candidly, this whole thing with the building and the way it's gone, it's a shame that it got to where it did. And I'm sure it got out of control for you and exceeded your expectations of where it is. But we just can't continue down the path. And it sounds like we're at resolution, as in you are going to take the building down. But in terms of being good to each other, like good partners, I'm just asking and hoping that we're going to make sure that we follow through. And I saw it in email, and I just wanted to publicly thank you for committing to doing that. And I wish you all the best with your development. The rest of it, I understand we've got other things to do and probably need to turn it over to town staff to be able to get at what we're going to. But that was a big key for our community, and it's unfortunate we got where we did. But thank you very much.
Okay. Do you have specific questions for town staff? Okay, I don't know that they're doing a presentation of any kind. They're just sitting there to answer questions if you have them. Okay, that's okay. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So then were we going to talk through so there's 2 initiatives that we've got outstanding, and there was a late email that was sort of sent explaining it. We're going to push this off, is what I understand, and we're going to wait until we're further down the path with this development, and then we're all just, Mr. Parth's going to be kind to us, and we're going to be kind to Mr. Parth, and we're just going to agree on what we're doing. Is that a good summary of what it is? Because there's not a decision to be made then.
Is that correct?
Mr. Ward, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Post, and through you. So the applications are being brought to you for a decision tonight. That's part of the amendments on the agenda proposed for approval. Those amendments permit the development proposal as submitted in its current state. We did get a very recent and rather last-minute request to add a couple of provisions into the amending bylaw. I just want to again reiterate that the amendments do permit the development as proposed. The requests for those provisions will give a little more flexibility, more option in the future. But I would suggest at this point in time, given the last-minute nature of the request and given that we haven't really had an opportunity to review a development concept that demonstrates need for those provisions to be included, it's a bit premature to insert those at this stage. So rather than try to scramble to look at implementing those at this time, it's best to handle that through a minor variance application process through the Committee of Adjustment. It's not uncommon to have that at a later stage. The development will need a site plan approval, as stated in the report, in addition to some other approvals. That's at the point where you get into a detailed design, and perhaps through that there's some refinements to the development concept. And if those provisions are needed, we don't know if they are or will not be, there's a venue for that through that variance approval. In terms of process, it is another approval step, but in terms of time, we don't see that as posing a delay. We could easily facilitate that in tandem with the site plan approval process, so we don't expect any delays in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm not going to lie, I found this whole report very, very confusing, and I think others will agree. So we had an original submission in 2022, 7 stories, 129 units, 200 spaces, parking. Then in 2025, it changed to 6 stories, 158 units, 246 spaces. So now before us is, in 2026, we're now looking at 9 stories, 97 units, and only 104 parking spaces. Does this not need to go back to public consultation with such significant changes? Like, they've changed drastically the number of units, they've changed the numbers of stories, and they've really reduced the number of parking. So because I said I feel that this whole report is all over the place, I see dates and changes and this and that. Not that I'm saying that it could change again, but that's how I feel it's going to change again. Should these new changes, because they are significant, go back to public meeting?
Mr. Ward?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Post, to Councillor Sherwood. So as part of the process, it is only one meeting required statutorily under the Planning Act. And you're correct, it's gone through a long road. It's been in place since 2022. We've seen 3 pretty substantial iterations of the concept. There have been 2 public meetings, one at the outset and then one most recently for that second iteration. And in our view, that second iteration was quite robust. It had a very large unit count, a large building profile, and the concept now that's been refined is slightly less than that in terms of the building footprint and the number of units, et cetera. And throughout the process, we gauge the temperature of input and community engagement. It hasn't been as contentious, say, as some other developments in a more residentially sensitive area per se. So just that coupled with how the development has evolved, we didn't feel it'd be necessary to have another public meeting. We felt that it's gone through very careful review at a staff and agency level, a lot of iterations, a lot of dialogue. We've now reached a point after many years through this process that we're ready to make a recommendation.
Okay, was there any other comments from members of council? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. Is this going to change the whole footprint of the downtown core then if we have, a lower density on one side compared to the other now? Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, on one side of the roadway, you're going to have one and, different heights, I guess.
Are you talking about the development that's at the proposed Angels Diner site?
Yeah.
Because the heights of those buildings are exactly the same. Even though the stories are different, the heights
Right.
of the 2 buildings are the same. So the one that's proposed at Angels Diner and this one will be the same height. And I'm looking at, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, did you have another question?
No, I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure.
Anything else from members of council? I just wanted to make the comment, I don't see anything else before I get into the vote on this. I just wanted to make the comment that I think that the updated plan does incorporate a lot of the comments that we heard at public meeting, and I think that that's been really good. I think that the change in the density makes a lot of sense. I think the change to the building footprint makes a lot of sense. I like the way that you've done the height with the step back after the sixth story, which again makes a lot of sense after the work that we've just done on the east and west corridor studies. So I was really glad to see that. And when I looked through the checklist as well as it relates to that corridor study, I was so pleased to see that so much of this development covers all of those things that we've covered off in that work. I think that was really important. The other piece that really makes me appreciate the way that this development is going is the planned investment into the Mill Creek area and just that environmental sustainability piece and the willingness for you to take that work on as part of this. It's a huge benefit to our community to be able to see that. So I'm happy to support this today in its concept, the way that it's been recommended by staff. So with that, if there's no further comments from council, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation in the report. Deputy Mayor Taylor and Councillor Andrews. Last questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we will now move on to 13.1.10, which is the neighborhood safety improvements on Wellington Street. I will turn it over to Councillor Andrews first for this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm appreciative of the comments that were made in the gallery, and I'm also appreciative of the staff report here. I have two questions. This is pertaining to, first, the crossing guard on a trial basis. As much as from a budgetary perspective, what is going to be the methodology to determine if that would be on a more permanent basis?
Mr. Koslek?
Yeah, through your worship, what we try and look at is the number of children that would cross in the area and number of pedestrians. So we believe that there'll be a significant number of crossings, but we'd like to do it as a bit of a pilot, see how the numbers are, and then we can look at it as part of the budget for 2027.
So do you have a head count, or do you work with the school board to get those numbers?
I don't know if we have a head count. I'll ask our transportation and development manager, Mr. DeLeese is here.
Mr. DeLeese, go ahead.
Pedestrian numbers.
Through you, Mayor Post, to Councillor Andrews, we have a crossing guard. We have a supervisor of crossing guards that has made some observations. We have a principal on site that has made some observations, as well as Officer Andrews, Officer, I just promoted you, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Officer Fines, who has made some observations as well. So based on those observations, boots on the ground, we're confident to say that a crossing guard is recommended there. However, the numbers won't lie when we're on site.
Thank you. And my second question through you, Your Worship, regarding the communications plan, can you explain how that is going to be implemented?
Mr. DeLeese?
Yes, through you, Mayor Post, to Councillor Andrews. So we have our partners at the Upper Grand School Board who have websites that we've communicated through. They also have access to all the parents and students through that website, and as well we'll be engaging our communications team, our great communications team, to put out some of the messaging as well too. We'll also have our crossing guards who are very communicative with the parents, as well as our supervisor on site. So we're confident saying to you that we have that well in hand.
Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Taylor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to talk quickly about this. And to me, this whole thing with the safety on Wellington Street, this is exactly how community engagement and council and staff are supposed to work together. It was absolutely awesome, and I just want to rehash what happened. So there was a group of parents who were very upset about what was going on at the school. There was safety issues at that school. They informed the principal. That group then enacted and contacted Mayor Post and myself. Mayor Post and I asked town staff to come. We had representatives from our crossing guards, and Mr. DeLeese joined us as well with his expertise, and the OPP were on site. We all stood on a street corner and talked to the residents and talked to the principal. There was probably 15 or 18 of us hanging around the schoolyard. It looked quite suspicious. And here we are a month later, 6 weeks later, with a solution in place for September. And I love this kind of stuff. Like this, it makes you so satisfied. This is the kind of stuff where you make a difference. And thank you, Tony, for all of your support. And thank you as well, Tim, for all of yours. And I think it's just great. And Mayor Post as well. And Council for allowing this to go through. So I think it's a good thing.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have one quick question for you, Mr. Jalise, if possible, and it's just on the one photo where it shows where the ladder crosswalk is going. And I know when we were out on site, we talked about it linking up with the Sarah Street sidewalk, and now in the image it's not. Can we just talk that through a little bit about the placement of the ladder crosswalk, if possible?
Absolutely, Mayor Prost. Thank you for the question. So certainly we wanted to keep the ladder crossing on the Wellington Street side in front of all the traffic. Now, there will be some markings on the Sarah Street side. It's the expectation, and speaking with our supervisor, is that the crossing guard will be able to patrol or cross students on both sides. So in other words, they would cross from Sarah to the Wellington side and then across. The key for that crossing is that we wanted to keep the crossing guard in full sight, and we wanted to make sure that the crossing on Wellington Street was in full sight of all three legs of that intersection. So that was the key for us, to make sure that everybody stayed safe.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense. I know it's a very odd intersection with a little fork in the road, so I appreciate that, and I think that will be great for the safety of our crossing guards. With that, there's no other questions on this item. Can I get a motion, please, for the recommendations that are in the report? Councillor Prendergast and Councillor Andrews, all in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to the end of our consent agenda. We'll move then into notices of motion prior to meeting, of which we have none. Was there any notices of motion tonight at the meeting? Not seeing any. Any announcements from members of council? Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just have one that I want to commend staff, Chief Snyder, GM Savage, and those that were involved with Camp Molly. Mayor Post, Councillor Sherwood, and I had the opportunity to participate in the graduation day. Some of us also had the opportunity to be on site at the Orangeville Fire Hall to watch the participants. Was pleased to know that approximately 50% of the participants themselves were actually from Dufferin County. And as much as this is an opportunity to educate potential firefighters or those that are interested in forms of EMS, emergency management careers, I was intrigued not only by those that participated, but also want to thank everyone that was involved from a staff and sponsorship perspective. And lastly, also the families that embraced their daughters and family members that were in fact recognized from a platoon point of view, and the competition was fierce. So it was really, really well done. I look forward to seeing this at a future date coming back to Orangeville. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Andrews. I just wanted to also, while we're talking about that, give a special shout out to three of the women members of the fire team who did some exceptional work over and above what their workload calls for, and that's Colleen, Ashley, and Emily from the fire team who did an exceptional job with that. So thank you to them for their participation. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Mayor Post. I would just like to congratulate and thank all of the volunteers who helped execute a very successful bass fishing derby at Island Lake. So those would be the Friends of Island Lake and the Credit Valley Conservation members that all teamed up to create a beautiful tradition, continue the tradition, and have a very great event. And just coming up next weekend is Rib Fest in town. And a shameless plug, as a scouting leader, we will be at the drink tent. And actually, for everyone who knows, it's all service groups that work the pop and water tent at the Rib Fest. And the Rotarians give those service groups half of the proceeds for when they're working in the drink tent. Just so you know, when you're buying water and pop and you're saying hi to service groups, it's not just scouts, but it does help us. So please say hi when you visit the Rib Fest next weekend.
Thank you very much. And there's no further announcements by members of council. Okay, we'll move into bylaws then. The recommendation is that all of the bylaws listed under item 17 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Stevens. All in favor? And that's carried. And can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Andrews. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you for joining us this evening.